this week we have kind of what I would call the ghost of Scott County. He is what Jess would call a pioneer. He's a very influential person in my life, in life, in marriage, in hunting, in every aspect of it. Jim is a man of character and a man of integrity, and he is just, as I said about Jess, he's a good one. But this is Jim Dilly.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I've been looking forward to this. We've been talking about it for some time now, and I was excited to see you kick it off. Can't wait to see some of the episodes start to air. So you've had some good guests so far, and I know you're going to have a lot more in the future. So
we got a lot to look forward to, but you're a very special one to me. So I just appreciate you taking your afternoon and spending it with Tobey.
We've had quite the friendship. We share a lot of the same passions and a lot of the same roots. So it's I look forward to a lot more years of close friendship.
Man. Absolutely, man. Well, Jim has always been, we haven't had velvet season, but probably the last 3 or 4 years now, but Jim has always seemed to find success one way or another. And he's got some tips and some advice and stuff, and he may not want to share his top secret stuff, but he's probably got a little bit that may can help some of us local hunters find success.
Yeah.
What is something that you do that's a little bit different? So
for me, I'm a big advocate of early season hunting. Most of my best deer, most of the bucks I've killed my entire life with archery equipment have been early season. I don't know why, but the heat just doesn't seem to bother me. Earlier in my career, I was a welder, so I don't know if I've just, the heat's just, it's never too hot to hunt. I'd probably go this afternoon if the season was open. For some, that's just a deal breaker for people, but for me, it's not. I found that in Mississippi, where we hunt, our deer by October 15th are already on edge so much because, man, about the start of dove season, people are filling up feeders, working food plots, bush hogging, disking, filling, putting out trail cameras. That, man, our deer, by the time our deer season and the weather gets good, they've been exposed to so much human pressure that for a bow hunter it's difficult. But I found that for early season, I could see bucks in the daylight very consistently up until about October the 15th. And, there's been years where I've killed 1, 2, or even 3 bucks in the year, in the first month of October. And I've had good success doing that. Now, we primarily hunt private land. And some of our land is mediocre at best, and some of it's better than others. And there's some years, some of the places don't produce anything. But we have found that if we can build a good food source with great access, meaning we're going to plant, our favorite thing to plant is vetch and clay and iron peas. And, man, we utilize feeders, trough feeders and spin feeders, and we start feeding early. We try to work our deer into our feeders. We'll have our feeders, some of my places look like Mark Drury's. I mean, we got a box stand that you can bow hunt out of, and, a lot of places we're just using climbers or my brothers hunts out of a saddle. And we're generally going to kill, there's 4 of us in my family that hunt. We're going to kill 2 deer during the velvet season every year. And we've also been going to Kentucky. I think this is our 7th consecutive year, and we've never ate a tag sandwich. At least we'll kill 2 bucks a year there. And it's, they're even open earlier than us. And you see a ton of deer when we go, and we only hunt afternoons. We stay out in the mornings. We get up in glass at daylight, and you kind of use that information to figure out where we want to go. But it's similar tactics, just hunting a deer on a feed pattern, trying to figure out where they're bedding, where they're feeding, and, get on the downwind side of them, basically. But the food plots are big. You got to get them in early. You got to fight the weeds and fight the heat and hope you get the rain. But if it works, it generally is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also got a sawtooth plantation.
We do.
That's a pretty good tactic to have.
We do. And so the last 2 years ago, the drought didn't produce any. And then last year during turkey season, year before last during turkey season, we had a hard frost, and the trees had already budded out. So they didn't produce, but this year they're absolutely loaded. We went to one of our farms yesterday and just put a trail camera on it, and the sawtooths are already starting to drop. There's persimmons. We've got peas planted, and we got feeders going. So high expectations of what's going to show up there in the next, 2 weeks.
Buffet.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I didn't know that they would already be dropping.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah. And Grant's driveway is that's all it is up and down his driveway is sawtooths, and his dad had planted a bunch just sporadically all over their place. And we were looking at the day, I was like, Grant, we need to just bring our small bush hog in here and just clean out around these things because deer are going to eat it. Yep. You might as well make it accessible for them because they're loaded to the brim. Like you said, this year has been, they've got what they needed for sure.
And plenty of rain, and we didn't have a real cold spring. So
Yeah.
we got a farm over here down the road, and it's about a 4-acre food plot. It sets up good for a north or a west wind. You come in, I got a big box stand, that I built, and you can bow hunt out of it. We had the whole field planted in vetch and peas. It's about 4 acres. We had sawtooths going that year. We had feeders, trough feeder, spin feeder. And we had actually left the area in front of the stand grown up, and then we went through there and just bush hogged around the feeder. And this was the first year we had the Mississippi Velvet season. I didn't get to hunt the first day because my daughter had went to this little cheer camp. She's in the 4th grade now, so she was probably in the first or second grade then. So I had to go to that, watch her cheer. But that Saturday I went. And a couple of deer come out in the field. We don't see a lot of deer around here. A good hunt for us is 6 or 7 deer. And I seen 3 bucks come out eating under the sawtooths. Went out into the vetch patch, fed for, 20, 30 minutes. And there's a pond in the middle of this field, and we kind of set it up that way because to the edge of the pond's about 40 yards. So if they start coming around that pond, you're going to get a shot. And they started working towards the feeder, and the buck I shot was a 9-point. And a nice, heavy, tight rack deer. And 3 other bucks that were with him, they just marched straight to the feeder, walked right down the bush hog path around the opening, straight to the spin feeder, and then to the trough feeder, 22 yards. And this deer stood in one spot. I remember watching him and looking at my phone every few minutes, and it's 28 minutes. It was like 45 yards, but he was just studying that, and he walked off. I had an east wind that day, an east-northeast wind, and I remember being nervous because that wasn't perfect. I needed a west or a north. And he circled all the way downwind to those deer, and finally, 28 minutes later, he stepped in that bush hog laying at 28 yards, and I was blessed to make a good shot and killed him. And my dad actually had this similar scenario the day before. He killed a really good 8-point.
I remember that deer. That's a big deer.
Yeah, on one of our other farms, exact same scenario: vetch, peas, feeders, sawtooths. And I came in. He had textbook hunt, shot his deer 28 yards, 25, 28 yards, killed it. So he's 71 now. So he was in his late 60s and still bow hunting.
That's awesome.
And he killed a 138 or 140-inch 8-point last year with a crossbow down on the Mississippi River at Terra. So he's still hunting.
At least you kind of understand where the bloodline of the bow hunting comes from. Jim is a bow fanatic. And I used to always get to November and I'd put my bow down and I'd start gun hunting. But since I've met him, he's kind of been a bow influence on me too. Like I've got to the point that the last 2 weeks is when we go pick up a gun, and that's the last hoorah, But Jim is good with bows, and you actually switched bows last year. You've been a bow tech shooter for forever.
Yep. So I'm not like Tobey. I'm not in this professionally. So I just shoot what I want to shoot, and I shoot what I like, and I shoot what works for me. And I've shot a lot of different bows. Matthews, Bow Tech, and I bought my first PSE last year. They came out with the you want to help me remember the name of it?
Mach 30.
Mach 30 DS. And it's a carbon bow. I really like the design of it. I was looking to shave weight. And I'm a huge advocate of the Garmin Zero Sight. I've shot it for quite a number of years. I just like the range finding capability of it. I like how it sets up for bow hunting. And that particular carbon bow was light, and it was shorter than I'm used to. I like to shoot a longer bow, even though I'm a 28-inch draw. But I bought it without even shooting. I actually bought it used off one of the trade sites, and guy shipped it to me, and I immediately knew after shooting it I was going to like it. And so I put new strings on it, outfitted it with the Garmin Zero, the premium sight, the one that has a Picatinny rail on it. And I think I probably got it about as light as you can get it. And I really, really like it.
Yeah.
And so
I've shot it. It shoots really good.
Yeah, it shot real well
It's
for me last
quiet.
year.
I mean, I hadn't got a problem with it, but this year when we've been shooting bow tech for years as well, I actually switched to the Matthews. We were looking at the Hoyt, we were looking at the PSE, and we were looking at all sort of things because we're just kind of freeballing this year, shooting kind of like you, whatever. But for the price of that Matthews, being able to have that tuning system, I mean, I come in here and I had a right tear, and I shifted it one line or one increment, whatever you want to call it, and I started shooting bullet holes and was shooting bear shaft at 25 last week.
Yep.
I mean, it's hard to beat that.
It is. And the new equipment I get texts and calls and Facebook messages from people all the time about archery setups and food plot questions. I get more archery setups than ever. And here, within a couple of weeks, I'll have people calling saying, "Can you put a D loop on my bow? Can you tune my bow? Can you know, I got a problem."
One of them.
And so that'll happen a lot. But when hunting season gets here, don't call me because I'll be in the woods. But over the years, I figured out that, you know, and there's something that I like the guy that has the, and I don't know his name. I think his name's Dan, has the elk-shaped channel.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal archer, and he says the separations in the preparation, that's one of his catchphrases. And it really is an archery. And so if you ever go somewhere with me, I am prepared as prepared can get. My bow's on site. I'm not going to have an oops. I'm not going to have a problem because I forgot to do this. Now, something may break, but I'm probably going to fix it.
Right.
But when hunting season comes here, I'm prepared. And we're going to get into some of that later on as we talk about how some of that relates to the spiritual life as well. And how, you know, it's easy to be prepared in things that you're passionate about. But, you know, the Lord's called us to be prepared in other areas as well.
Absolutely.
And through different seasons of life. And so I think that's important. But I can tell you that my success rate as an archery hunter has way more to do with my preparedness as an archer than it does my skills as a woodsman. Because I'm not that good a woodsman. You know, last year I had probably one of the best years I've ever had. I didn't kill anything real big last year, but I tagged out in Kentucky on a great deer. I killed a velvet deer here. I killed 3 bucks in Mississippi. I tagged out in two bucks in Oklahoma, and I killed a bear. And I was with you, and you killed both your bucks. And we went to Texas. I killed one doe there, and, you know, all my equipment and everything just performed flawlessly. And I was, man, just so confident going into the year. Yeah. And because, you know, a lot of times, you know, I'm practicing. I'm putting the reps in. I'm not shooting as quite as much as I used to shoot, you know, when I was able to go to Bibles and Bows. I don't get to go as much now because my daughter plays sports. I have to go to her sport and good stuff. But, you know, looking forward to, hopefully I'm going to get to go tomorrow, shoot some 3Ds. Makes a huge difference in confidence.
I mean, if you're comfortable with going and getting whooped, I am inviting you to come.
I'm going to try to be there. I'm going to try to be there.
Yeah. Well, man, it's going to be good. I'm excited about that. It's going to be really good. And, Jim, I know that I always say this pretty much word for word every time, but we can talk hunting all day, but there is a purpose behind 21 Roots, and that is the gospel.
That's it. Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, man, let's dive in it.
All right. So a little bit about me. Anybody knows me, they know I love to hunt. But professionally, I am in the meat business. I work for a company out of New York City. I'm a commodities meat trader. I buy and sell meat every day, full truckloads of meat. Been doing that 15, 16 years. And then I have a taxidermy studio. And Forever Wild's my taxidermy shop. I just do, 20, 30 deer a year, a few turkeys. But one thing I've learned through life is, and one thing that the Lord, he seems to teach me in phases of my life, is that, when you do something, do it with all your ability as unto the Lord. And that's the scripture that I wanted to bring, to the audience today was 1 Corinthians 10:31. This is what it says. And Paul's talking to people about, some legalistic stuff about what they can eat, what they can't eat, whose house they should go to, whose house they shouldn't go to. And he says, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. Give no offense to Jews or to Greeks or to the church of God. Just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved. You see, Paul here, he's more concerned about the advantage of many than he is his own. And he's saying, whether you eat or drink, it doesn't matter what you eat or you drink. It don't matter wherever you go. Honor the Lord when you do it.
Yeah.
And, and I think as outdoorsmen sometimes because, I'm real careful about where I go and who I go with when I go out of state hunting because there's a stigma and there's just this persona about deer camp that, hey, I can go to church on Sunday, but Friday and Saturday I'm going to be at deer camp cranking open the Bud Lights. And, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be involved in that because he gave me this passion for the outdoors to honor him with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to water it down by going somewhere and, and being influenced by other people that,
right.
use it
Absolutely.
for not his gain. But I think what Paul's trying to say in here, he said, in every action, big or small, you should glorify God. And so, you know, but it's easy to do it when I want to tune my bow. You know, what's good enough for a tuned bow? Well, for some people, it's different. Tobey will tell you, for me and for my bow, perfection.
Yeah.
You know, if I can't shoot a bare shaft at 25 yards and I got 3 or 4 bare shafts in the middle of the dot staring right back at me, perfectly tuned, I'm not happy. I'm going to go and do whatever it takes to get it tuned. And, you know, and God uses different times in our life to tune us up in those ways. And I can tell you, for me, lately, basically, I've been married 18 years, is that me and my wife are involved in, you know, different aspects of ministry. One of them is marriage counseling ministries, and we speak at a number of different churches with a group, Lot Farms Ministries, where we give counseling and we give, you know, encouragement to married couples that are struggling. And so, for me, through doing that, God began to let me reflect on myself. And one thing about it is that, you know, I got 2 daughters, 13, and one's almost 10, well, one's 9. And my 13-year-old is playing on the varsity volleyball team. And so I'm pushing her, right, you know, to work hard, to have good character, to take up for other people, you know, because there's, you know, all the stuff that goes on at school. And then, but when I push her on effort, as far as physical effort in athletics, she can't take me seriously because I was overweight and, you know, way overweight. I mean, I'm 5'8". I weighed 189 pounds, you know, Memorial Day weekend. And God began to deal with me. He says, you know, how can you do anything excellent if you can't even take care of your own body? And so, you know, I began to then, you know, take into consideration those things. So, you know, I started eating better, started researching how to eat better. And, you know, I've lost almost 29 pounds since about the 1st of June. And I'm back down. I'm way less now than I have been since I've been married, and I've got more energy. And that's saying a lot for me, because you know how much energy I have. And so that's just one area of my life where God began to say, hey, what's excellent to you?
Right.
Because he wants every part of my life to honor him. And so when I stand up in front of a group of married men and women, you know, I want them to understand that this is important to me. It's also important to my wife. I don't want my wife to go out there and be overweight and not take care of herself. No man does. And so, you know, she wants the same for me. And so God's been walking me through that, you know, because I want to be able to, people, that when I encourage people, they take me seriously, and I want God to be glorified in that. And so there's other areas of our life, and in this order, that we must produce excellence. All right? First is our relationship with Jesus. Second is our relationship with our spouse and our family. Third is our friends and our church. Those should be the same thing. Fourth is our professional career. Fifth is our hobbies. And I think it includes your health as well. And so in that order. And so, you know, we want to have an excellent relationship with Jesus. All these things, one catalyst of these things is time. Yeah. You can't produce excellent without investment of time. And so, you know, spending time with Jesus, spending time in worship, those things are of utmost importance. Spending time in God's Word, fellowshipping with other believers, and not putting yourself subject to those things I was talking about, like going to deer camp or going to places that don't bear any fruit. Right. Abstraining from those things. Those are of utmost importance. And you have to get that right first before anything else is right. Because if relationship's not right there, and you're not producing fruit there, then you can't expect to love your spouse like you should. And so, secondly, the relationship with your spouse and your children is, you know, that's your first mission field. I know for me and for my wife, one thing that I worked on throughout the last 2 years, and God made this so evident to me, I'll tell this quick story, is a lot of times I'm always busy. I had to keep myself busy. Maybe that's an excuse, I don't know, but I'll fuss at her, or I'll gripe at her, or I'll have the wrong tone. Like, she'll ask me a question, I'll be like, what? I don't know. You know, and I think we all do that. Sometimes we get shorter with the people that are closest to us. But what I realized and what God showed me is that my tone is really a reflection of the value that I place on that person. And God showed this to me so clear at work one day. So I worked for a company out of New York City, and I talked to the boss, the owner of the company, is a New Yorker through and through, and I love him. He treats me like family. But I talk to him about it every day, and other people in my office do. And his name's Vinny, and so he'll call, and I don't like if my brother calls him, I'll go, "What you doing, man?" You know. But if Vinny calls, I go, "Hey, Mr. Vinny, how are you doing?" Like my tone changes,
Right.
you know, because of the priority that I replace on it, because he writes my check. And so I handled that situation with my tone differently with him than I did with my spouse. And man, he hit me hard. And it was one of those awakening moments in your life where you realize, man, 15 years I've been doing this wrong. And it's a challenge, you know, even today when we're talking, I have to realize that next to Jesus, when I speak to her, she's second. You know, sometimes she gets treated like 10th. Sometimes, you know, the big 10-point I got on camera gets treated more appropriately than she does. And so, you know, God started showing me these things in areas of my life. And so that rolled down to my children, too. When I encourage my children, if I talk to them like a jerk, they're not going to listen to me. My words carry no weight. And also rolled down to my people that I have influence over in my job and at my church. And it all had to do with my tone, how that I spoke to people. So, you know, there's areas of my life that when God began to show me this, that I saw evidence of his fruit and of his blessings. I saw it, you know, through the last 2 years, my career take off. I'm a salesman, and so my sales got better. Not only did my sales get better, my sales got easier. They became better business. And I think it's just because of the amount of blessing that God can pour out when you strive to honor him with excellence. And I can tell you that through my taxidermy shop, it's actually probably caused me more pain and anguish seeking excellence than it has monetary value.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, I've been doing taxidermy about as long as I've known you, about 5 or 6 years, and that I'm already a lot better than some taxidermists that's been doing it 20 years. But I'm also a lot worse than some taxidermists that are out there, right? And so it's not like I'm just saying, okay, I'm good enough. Let me go through here and just continue to do it. I want to continue to get better. I want every client to come in there when they come in next year. I want them to say, man, I didn't think you could get any better, but this is amazing. I think we ought to have that kind of walk with our spiritual life with Jesus, you know, and so it pushes me professionally, pushes me in my family, pushes me, and now it's starting to push me in my health. My wife asked me a couple of months ago when I was starting to really lose some weight. She said, "You look different." I said, "I feel different. I feel like I'm a young man again." She said, "Well, when are you going to go back to eating?" I said, "I'm not. I'll never go back." You know, and I eat pretty clean now, but you know, might stop and get fast food, but I make better choices than I ever have. And so for me, it's just always seeking to be a better steward of the time that God gave us, because really that's all we have is time. You know, you can say he gave you money, he gave you a car, but he really just gives you time. That's really all that matters. And at the end of the day, whether I'm doing taxidermy work or I'm selling meat or I'm climbing trees and hunting deer or hunting turkeys, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how many souls we reach for Jesus.
Yeah.
That's it.
I agree 100%. That's what the purpose of this is, and that's what I've said with you countless times. Is, you know, I felt like he has built 21 South, and he's given me a platform that I didn't deserve. I wasn't living for him. I wasn't working for him. I just claimed it, you know. But he's still giving it to me for a reason, and I feel like it is to be used for him.
Yeah.
You know, we can shoot all the big deer we want. We can climb the ladder. We can do what we want. But if he's not being glorified and honored through it, what is the point of it?
That's right. So I can remember, I don't know how many years ago, but about the time I started doing taxidermy is really when, like, my confidence level in the hunting arena went way up. And I got into it almost by mistake because I killed, the first year we went to Kentucky, I was the only one to kill. I killed a nice full velvet deer, and I left it in Kentucky because we had CWD laws this first year. Couldn't bring it home. Didn't even know how to cape a deer out. Well, I had to do an Iowa tag that year. And so I was going to Iowa in November. I came home, I killed a deer on October 4th. Killed another one on October the 9th. So I said, I better practice because I ain't leaving that deer in Iowa. I ain't making a trip back to Iowa to pick a mount up, you know. And so I was already believing I was going to kill one. So I practiced and I YouTube, and that just kind of got me into, you know, what's the next step? Fleshing the deer. So that's how I got into taxidermy. So I went to Iowa, killed a deer, came back to Mississippi, killed that big deer you love that's on my wall, a really big 8-point. So I had killed like 5 bucks that year. And I paid to get one of them mounted, and I practiced on the rest of them. That's how I got started. But I'll tell you this. Before that, my brother told me, Jess told me, he said, you work harder at hunting than anybody I know, but you don't never kill nothing big. And I was like, you know, you're right. And
There was a time, huh?
yeah. And so, and I was working hard, man. Like I was like, man, I could shoot as good as Levi Morgan. You know, I was practicing every day. But I'd go hunting, and things just weren't working. Like I just, you know, I was doing all the things I thought were right. And that's kind of when I can try to say that, you know, I figured something else out. I figured out the magic potion, but I didn't. You know what I did? I just quit caring. I just quit. You know, I was hunting. I'm going to do this till the day I die, whether I'm hunting a 110-inch 7-point or I'm hunting a booner. And I just quit caring. I quit, you know. I mean, it got to be at the point where, like, we would argue about who's going to go where, when you're going to hunt. You know, I was putting priority on this lifestyle over being serious about God's work. And sometimes I think I'm still guilty of that. But really and honestly, when I go on a hunting trip, I mean, you've been off with me, I'm pretty chill. Like, I don't care if I kill one or not. I'm going to try really, really hard. And if I don't kill one, I don't care. And if I do kill one, that's great. I mean, we went down to Mexico a couple of years ago and hunting. And I said, I'm just going to bow hunt this year. I'm bow hunt off the ground. And the whole time down there, you know, it's kind of like a joke now. We know Jim's going to kill a big one. I'm like, well, I know I am too. You know, and I don't know if that's just God's favor on my life, because I really don't care if I kill one. Like, if you kill one, I'm just as happy for you as if I kill one. But I really believe when I flipped that switch and I was like, all right, God, I don't care if I kill one or not. I just want to go hunt. Like, I never pray, God, please let me kill this deer. I just want to honor him in everything I do, everywhere I go, everyone I meet. And I want them to know that God loves them. I want them to know that Jesus died for their sins. And I want to build a long-lasting relationship with them that lasts more than a 3-day hunt.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, every time I go, almost every trip I go on, I am just exhausted with opportunities of greatness. Like, I never considered that I'd have this much fun in the woods. Like, it's mind-blowing how much fun I have. And
imagine watching it from the outside. It's kind of like I was watching Lee Lukowski the other day, and he was talking about a deer he's got on camera this summer. He's like, I'm telling y'all, between October 12th and October 15th, he's dead. Mm-hmm. Like, he said, I could be wrong, but I'm telling you, he's dead. And, like, you don't have that mindset. You don't say that. But when we were in Oklahoma, I was telling Devin and Taylor that first weekend, I said, Jim's just going to kill the biggest deer on this place. And the next morning, Jim killed the biggest deer probably on that place at that time.
I hope I kill another one this year that good. I don't think I will, though.
There's probably one hiding around there somewhere.
I hope so.
You just snug up around rattlesnake somewhere, you'll probably find him.
But, you know, it's just one of those things where you cannot outgive God. As good as you think it's going to be, if you think, man, if I could just wake up and I could get an Iowa tag every year, I'd kill a big buck. When God gets ready to bless you, he can bless you more than you ever would think or imagine. And I think when we put excellence as our priority of glorifying him, I think the sky really is the limit, because you cannot, as much as you think you can wrap your mind around what God can do, he's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, you cannot even call it an exponential increase, because it's so much more than that.
Right.
And the peace that it can give you, and the healing that he can give you in your relationships with other people, with your family, with your spouse, and, you know, in the spirit. And, you know, there's one thing I wanted to talk about, and because in my life I have And I grew up with pretty thick skin. You know, I'm not that much older than you. I'm 41, but I grew up. You know, I didn't grow up with a cell phone. I didn't get one until I was, you know, like a freshman in college. So we grew up in a different era. And like, you know, I started working when I was 12 or 13. You know, we just worked summer jobs. But I grew up around a generation that was pretty hard. You know, they picked a lot, and so you know, I grew up. I think grew up tough. I grew up with thick skin, but I think sometimes today people get shut down really fast. They get discouraged really fast. And I just want to encourage people that, you know, whether they want to kill a big deer or whether they want to share the gospel, I hope you want to do both. If you want to do both, me and you can be friends. But it reminds me of people, when you start to seek excellence, there's always somebody there to shut you down. You know, we had that storm hit last year, and I went to, you know, I had to build a new shop. And when I got ready to do it, you know, I put those lights in my shop, in my studio, and there were like several people like, man, that's just too much. You don't need all that. And I was like, yeah, we're not on the same wavelength. Like, I'm not trying to produce. Is it different? Yeah, it's different. Does it look different? Yeah. And some people aren't okay with that. Some people will say, I mean, even about hunting, they'll say, oh, you're going too far, or that's too much, or you don't need that much corn. Or you don't need to tune your bow that good.
You don't need a Garmin sight.
You don't need a Garmin sight, right. And you don't. I mean, my brother will tell me all the time, Daniel, my older brother, he'll tell you the Indians killed him with a stick, man. You got a laser rangefinder. I was like, yeah, I get it. I said, but, you know, in life, there's always somebody there that wants to pull the rug out from under you when they see you seeking excellence. It's not the fact about that you got what you attained. It's just the fact that they don't like you seeking that journey. And I wanted to bring a scripture up about that, and it's from 2 Samuel chapter 6. And it's when David, I think he took like 30,000 to go back and get the Ark of the Covenant from where they left it. They left it at this guy's house, Obed-Edom. And when they left the Ark of the Covenant there, like a great blessing flowed upon that guy, right? Just huge blessing. David's like, we got to go get the Ark of the Covenant. And this is what it says. This is 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 20. He said, when David returned home to bless his household, Michal, daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said, how the king of Israel had distinguished himself today, going around half naked in full view of the slave girls of his servants, as any vulgar fellow would. So he's dancing in the street, you know, he's celebrating this great blessing of God, this Ark of the Covenant, which represented God's holiness back home. And David said to Michal, it was before the Lord who chose me rather than your father or anyone else from your house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people Israel. I will celebrate before the Lord. I will become even more undignified than this, and I will be humiliated in my own eyes. But by these slave girls you spoke of, I will be held in honor. And you know, Michal was Saul's daughter and his wife. And when he came home to celebrate this excellent thing that he had achieved, he was immediately shot down by that person closest to him. And, you know, sometimes it's not the person close to us. Sometimes it's on social media. I mean, if you want a naysayer, just make a post, right? I mean, the first one. Generally, if you get 100 comments, probably half of them are negative. And so we live in a day today where negativity is so prevalent that when you begin to seek excellence, when you begin to seek to glorify God, and the Bible even teaches us this, that you will be met with great resistance. And David said this. He said, I will be even more undignified than this. I will worship the Lord even more than this, because he knew what great things God was going to continue to do. He didn't just rest easy in that moment. He was celebrating what the blessing that God had gave him now, and he was honoring God for the blessings that were going to come to Israel in the future. And, you know, that speaks volumes to me, because in my life, I can't tell you how many times people would say, that'll never work. But God proves otherwise. You know, when my daughter was young, she had rivers when she was a baby. She'd get a snotty nose, get sick, and then go to the hospital and get admitted with pneumonia. It happened 4 or 5 times. And we just had brought my youngest daughter home from the hospital, and I could remember Rivers was sick the whole time. And she used to have a real raspy voice. We always said she talked like a smoker, at 4 years old. And I'd kind of just wrap my mind around this is kind of, she's just going to have this type of voice and have these asthmatic problems and the rest of her life. And we brought Red home from the hospital, and she was sick. She was laying in my lap in the recliner. Jennifer's in the other room with Red, baby crying, feeding the infant, a couple of days old. And Rivers just, I tell Jennifer, I said, she can't breathe. I got to take her to the hospital. So, my mom goes with me. We take her to the hospital, and they admit her and put her on double, triple breathing treatments, give her steroids off. We've been there for a couple of days, And I can remember we had an old guy that went to our church, and there's this, his name was Doug Rouse. He passed on 6 or 7 years ago. And he came in and he prayed for my daughter for her to be healed, which I prayed for. My parents, my wife's parents, my wife, we, prayed that God would heal her. And I didn't realize it at that time on that day because she got better and we came home and she had to take a couple of breathing treatments, for a week or two. But since that day, her voice cleared up. Now she talks like, now she talks normal. She has 0 problems. She plays varsity sports in the 8th grade. And it's one of those defining moments when you think, it's just going to be this way. It's just this is just one of those bumps in the road that you deal with. And, you have those and you deal with them. But God's so big that he can take some of those away. Yeah. And he can fix them. And he did that day for my daughter. And there's a deer that's mounted in my shop, and I killed it October the 9th. In fact, it's the first year I started doing taxidermy. I remounted it about 3 weeks ago. And I remounted it because Doug Rouse, who went to my church, just a spiritual mentor for me. He passed away on October the 6th, I think. And back then, I didn't have as much freedom in my job as I do now. I had to work, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, sit in the office. And but I had to preach his funeral, part of his funeral, because me and him were real close. And so it was on October the 9th, which is a Friday. And I had a good deer on camera. It was coming in the mornings. And I normally don't hunt mornings, but I knew this farm really, really well, and I knew where this deer was bedding, and I needed a northeast wind, which never happens in October hardly. And it rained that night, and we got a northeast wind that morning. I said, man, I want to be at that funeral at 10 and go in there and kill that buck. So I went in there that morning, tiptoed in there, and there's a ladder standing there, climbed up, and the deer comes in before shooting light. And I got Swarovski EO binoculars. I was, yeah, that's him. I can tell that's him. He comes out with another buck. I waited. Got light, shot him and killed him. And so he's hanging. I call it my forever wild wall. I got him hanging in there now, and I wanted to remount him just because I think he's a 131-inch deer. Just because of, I killed him on that day.
Right.
And that memory of him, of Brother Doug, is so much more important to me than that deer. But, that's how I relate to a lot of things. And I think that's how you relate, and I think that's how a lot of people that follow 21 South relate to life. And it's important that you have enough depth in the spirit that you don't ever draw that line between your professional life and your spiritual life. You should just have a life that honors God.
Flow together.
You shouldn't have a deer camp life and a spiritual life. You should have a life that honors God. And that's the message in the people that I bump shoulders with that I want them to realize about me is that, I want them to know that I want to honor God. And that doesn't mean I always do because, I fail a lot. But I want to.
Yeah.
And that's my heart.
Well, God sees that. He doesn't just look at your victories and your perfectionism that you have. He looks at your failures and he sees, he messed up, but I see the striving that he is taking for excellence. I do believe that he looks at the striving way more than the failures.
I do too.
I truly believe that.
Yeah. And, and it's one thing I wanted to point out, too, because there's some sayings that people will say when you start to seek excellence. They'll say, oh, that's too much, or oh, it's unnecessary. You don't need to do all that. But Jesus left the 99 to go find the one. And if that didn't tell you, I mean, he paid it all for us. And that is the gospel, that one man who didn't deserve it paid the price of sin for all of us. And, he doesn't charge us for that. And he just asks us to honor him. And that's not much to ask.
It's not. And there's so many of us who are in the shoes of the prodigal son. We're out there sinning. We're out there doing everything that we know is wrong. But when he sees you coming, get a ring, get a robe, get everything. Yep. Let's celebrate. My child has come home. Just like when he leaves the 99 to find the one, let's celebrate. Let's praise. Let us. He's waiting.
Yep, he's waiting.
He's waiting, man.
He's good. So, that's my, this year, I exhaust a lot of effort, resources, time, money. I hope my wife never finds out how much I spend. She thinks everything I do is too much, and I think everything she does when she gets to decorate the house, I say, well, that's just too much. We don't need it. But what you're passionate about is what God gave you.
Yeah.
And that's, you need to, for sure, make sure you honor him with that. The best way to do it is with your mouth, is just be up front. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for the gifts you've given me. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share this time with, with my brothers or my family, or, and, pray over those times that you have together in the outdoors, because, one day, I don't know that I ever will, but there'll probably be a day when, I just won't shoot my bow anymore. I don't know. It ain't today.
Yeah.
But there may be a day. My dad's kind of at that point. He can kind of give it or take it.
Well, I think if he got 71, 72 years out of it, he earned a break.
Yeah. Now, my buddy Steve just turned 70 or 71, and he hunts as hard or harder than I do.
Really?
Yeah. And he's probably killed more deer with a bow than me and you'll ever kill times 10. I mean, he's been doing
He's
it.
killed a bunch.
Yeah. But, it's one of those things that for me, I have this thing that I do in my life. Somebody told me this. He said, if you ever make easy money, go earn you some money. Meaning, if everything ever comes easy, you better look for something that's hard. And so, like, I got a job, and I have a sales job, and God's, blessed me so much in that area to be a part of a company that's a good deal, that's good people and a good place to work. And I was trained in my trade by my father, but before that I was in construction, industrial, commercial construction. And so now when I have really good months, I'll go back to my roots, and I will find a welding job, and I'll go do it. And it might make for some miserable $300 or this or that. But generally I kind of time it before hunting season, because I want to buy my tags and my license and stuff. And so, but I think that's, somebody taught me that
Right.
at a young age. If you ever, he said, go look for, he said, and then it's a washout. And I think it's the same way in the spirit. When things look easy, you need to seek out something that's going to stretch you a little bit. And it might mean it's laborious. It might mean just uncomfortable. But, man, the dividends are just...
It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
It's kind of like seeing that place on the map and saying, I know if I would just put in the miles to get there, there'll be a big deer in there, or there'll be a gobbler in there.
Then you just lay your phone down and think about it in a couple months.
Yep. Or if you're Tobey, you just go and you go in there.
Or just go knock on the door.
Yep.
Oh, man. I got some more today.
Good.
Met a guy in Lake. I said, hey, man, what you think? Take off. So, well, Jim, man, I appreciate your time and your emotion and your heart to this. I knew that you'd be a very special guest to have on here, and you're very knowledgeable in so many ways. And I love you, and I thank you for your time, brother.
Well, I appreciate you. I think everything 21 South stands for, and I think it's going to do great things. I think 21 Roots is going to take off for you, and I hope that, our transparency and in our life is, I know for you and your house and your door is open, and so is mine. And there's been many nights where me and you sat around and talked about all the things that the Lord has for us and all the challenges that has faced. And I hope I could continue to do that with many other people. And some of those people that you connect with, it's not through hunting or fishing, but I think God put us here and gave us His passion to connect with those people.
For sure. And Him saying that and wanting us to be able to be that for other people. If people who watch these videos and listen to these podcasts, if you guys ever need anything, if you just need somebody to simply pray for y'all, do not hesitate to send us a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or emails, or whatever you need to do. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to pray for you. We'd love to do anything that we can to be a form of encouragement, myself or Jim. We're here. So just know that our door is open.
Yep.
So,
and if you need help with your bow, shoot us a message. Shoot me a message, and we'll pray for you too.
Shoot me a message, and I'll forward you to Jim. He's my go-to. He's my bow mechanic. But like I said, brother, I appreciate you, and I thank you.
Can't wait season to be here soon, and it'll be kicking off.
It's going to kick off soon. I appreciate that, Jim. That was good.